Cinema back, another dish. How we doing out there? Good, great, wonderful. Been a minute, hasn't it? I was just telling the gents before we rolled here. I'm gonna be honest, got burnt out there for a minute, just a little burnt out. Still love movies and everything, but when you got a full-time job, full-time school, and then you try to fit the podcast in there, well, there's only so much time in a day. Then I heard about this film. So, as you see on your screen, your dial, however, you are choosing to join us today, I appreciate you. I know the filmmakers do and the cast do. The Leech. I had heard about this film. I had actually the actor I've been following for quite a while now, the writer director. I have seen some of his pieces before, so I was really excited to see what was going to become of this project, and it did not disappoint. It is definitely one of my favorite films of the year. The guys that listen to the show, the regulars, guys, gals that listen to the show, I like original stuff. I like weird stuff. I like dark stuff. That's usually what makes it into my list, even though the older I get, I don't know if I believe in lists anymore. But The Leech stars Graham Skipper, Jeremy Gardner, Taylor Zaudtke, and Rigo Garay, and written and directed by Eric Pennycoff. And The Leech will be available on Blu-ray and on the Arrow streaming player, Arrow Player, December 5th. December 5th. So for all of you nerds that don't like physical media like I do, I mean, I guess it's fine. I don't get it, but I guess it's fine. You have no excuse because you can see it on the Arrow Player. So make sure that you stream that December 5th, and make sure you bring in the Christmas spirit with this tone, because holy shit, I had a good time. Let's get rolling. As most of you know, I can't stand doing this fucking show. I hate it. I really do. I hate it unless everybody relax, unless I have somebody or something interesting to talk to or bring on the show. And I really think that we're in for a treat today, because I was able to get writer-director of the Leech, Eric Pennycoff, and the star. Well, let's be honest. It has there's three stars in this film, and they all just nail it, I thought. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say, gentlemen, right here, right now, I haven't seen it. You know what? Let's not go overboard here. You want to know what the camaraderie of you guys on screen reminded me of? Jaws. I kid you not. The three of you working off of each other, it felt so comfortable. It worked so well, and you guys are clicking on all cylinders. It's hard to believe that this was shot in a pandemic. It's hard to believe that this is kind of a smaller budget film. And Eric, you did it with, did I hear 6 or 7 on these bonus features? 6 or 7 people?
Yeah, there were, well, 10 of us total. So a cast of 4 and a crew of 6. No one in, no one out, which is, not a lot of many people have worked on my previous films, but even on previous films, you had people that were able to help out on a weekend or maybe some afternoon. But, there were people that offered us additional help on this one. And we were, as the producer, I had to be very strict and say, no, it's you're either in our bubble or you're not in the bubble. Strange things happen in the bubble.
Speaking of help, I almost wasn't going to help in the promoting of this film, and I'm going to tell you why. I sat down and I watched all the bonus features. Between the Q&As, I think you guys covered it all. So I got nothing but softball questions. And I'm going to be honest with you. The main reason that I almost canceled is after listening to Anton Badel dissect your films, Eric. Like, I was
crazy.
I'm not that well spoken, and I sure as shit am not that smart, and I can't break it down like he did. I'm just going to call the boys and say, hey, it's off. I have there's nothing I'm going to be able to contribute in this film besides bringing you guys my audience, which I don't know how it's international, but it is international. But after listening to Anton, I was just kind of like, I wish I would have watched the bonus features before I contacted you guys, because I was just like, man, there's no stone unturned in the Arrow. Always brings the good stuff. They don't disappoint ever. And I'm so glad that you decided to bring this film to them, because if I'm being honest with you, is there a better place to release this film than Arrow? I don't think there is. So let's just start with the softball question. So Eric, you were a squatter. That's why you wrote this, right?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, not as literally as the movie, but it was definitely kind of a crazy transitional point in my life when I made this movie. I try to not, sulk on too many things too much, because this was during COVID and there were a lot of people out there that were, going through a lot worse than a few of us whose lives were moving around. But a big part of the impetus of this was a lot of early conversations I had with Graham. Him and I were going through some similar things at the time, and I think a lot of us indie filmmakers were looking around saying, we're used to making small movies with not a lot of people and not a lot of money, so our instincts tell us that no matter what you have, go make a movie. But it was a very uncertain time. I think we were looking around like, are we ever going to make a movie again? And I think so much of what went into this movie was just everyone feeling that way and kind of just not turning over any, not, refusing to turn over a stone or not trying something that may or may not work. I think it was definitely a big engine to this.
It kind of reminded me, and I know you're gonna hate this because you love Paul Schrader, but in some aspects it teeters on like what is it, First Reform should have been. Only because I'm sick. Like, don't get me wrong. His movie was great. Like, the ending is just about as dark as you can possibly get. But I'm sitting here watching this going, this is like the more fun version of that film. Like, and I don't know how you can call it fun, but just for my audience, I would say it's like that movie almost with, and if you're offended by what I'm about to say next, I apologize. It was like that movie with like a Jordan Peele type vision, I guess. And I hope that doesn't offend you because we all want to be original or anything, but that was the first thing I thought, like the tone of the film, the way that the film moves. I was just like, this is so unique unto most things that I've seen. And I'll go a step further. I finally have something besides like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or Black Christmas that I can watch on Christmas now because the other ones are played out. And now I have a new one that I can be like, hey, you ever seen The Leech? You need to. Yeah, no. It's great. It's a great Christmas film. You just gotta just come over and watch it and hang out. And I tell you what, once they see David Graham, holy shit, dude. There is a range that you manage to conquer throughout this whole film that it is amazing to see where we end up as opposed to where we started. I mean, at first you're making me cringe with hashtag Sunday Squad. And then before you know it, I tell you what, some of those closing sequences, Eric, when you're shooting him in the now dark church and he is giving, you're all bandaged up, Graham. I was like, this is sadistic as fuck right now. They're like, this is so fucking dark. And then you light Jeremy with the red light, and I'm just like, this movie's perfect to me. And I know a lot of people will be like, what the fuck did I just watch? But that's what I live for. Those are me. I've seen enough movies now. We can't do the cliche stuff anymore. I can, and it's fine. But like, these are the movies I seek out, and I think of just Graham. Holy shit! Like, where did you pull from? Like, what were your inspirations? I know Eric's, but what were your inspirations for this film? Because I almost felt it teetered on perfect. I don't like to say perfect, and I know it sounds like I'm blowing a lot of smoke, but I've seen the movie now 3 times, and I'm catching even little things, more so like the drone shot that I just thought was beautiful. Learned about that later in the day. Graham, where did this just spike come from, my friend?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it's a real gift as an actor to be given a role like this that has such an arc, so I was totally thrilled and excited when Eric sent me the script. Yeah, it's I said that one of my big inspirations was Oliver Reed and The Devils. That to me I think is such a great kind of example of a priest that has gone off the deep end on the other side. I grew up going, in the church. I wasn't Catholic, but I grew up. My family went to church every Sunday. I was very heavily involved in the church. Ended up going to a Catholic college, and so I had a lot of priests that were my teachers. And so I have a lot of religious history to myself that I was able to really bring into this. And one thing about the clergy that I find really interesting is this idea that there are people who are supposed to be sort of conduits to God, right? They're supposed to be kind of the best example, in an ideal situation, right? The best examples of what a human can be, but they all have their own shit going on. And so I found it really interesting to play with this idea of, if you are a priest and if you really, really, really are as devout as David is, um, what happens when your human side, gets triggered by this clearly awful situation? Um, and that struggle that then happens between wanting to continue to be godly and continue to live this life that you've told yourself you're going to live, while at the same time being fucking pissed and fucking terrified and angry and wanting to exact revenge and wanting to do all these things that you've sworn that you're not going to do. Then to layer then on top of that, these questions of Father David's past, um that maybe he joined the clergy because he's running away from something that he doesn't like in himself.
I think he might have. I think he might have.
You know, and and then how do you deal with that as a person? So for me, it became a lot about the humanity versus the like religious ideal, and how David is trying to kind of have that battle within himself the whole time. And it was just so fun, and then of course you have Jeremy and Taylor, who then you're able to play off of them, and and Rigo too, like what a gift as an actor. So I was, thank you. I'm glad that you like the performance, but I was really given sort of the best possible circumstances to give one, because Eric provided me with an amazing script, an amazing character, and then threw me in with a group of incredible actors to play with. So it was really, I'm very, very proud of this role.
So kind of going back to I also went to a Christian university, not a Catholic university. I just have a quick question for you, Graham. Were you I assume you were acting in college, right?
Yeah.
You ever have to pick pieces that really you kind of wanted to push the envelope, but you had to stay within the confines of the environment that you were in? I found that was my biggest problem in acting class or doing any sort of short at the time, that I think it made me better, like in terms of like, I have these set of parameters that I have to abide by, but there was always something that I was throwing in there to make somebody upset, because by the time I had got to listen, tuition was free. That's why I went to the liberal arts university. But by the time I had got there, it was Hail Satan. You know what I'm saying? Like from freshman year on, like I was over it. So I just didn't, does it make it harder? And this is a question for both of you, Eric or Graham. Does it make it harder or easier to execute the piece because you have that background? Because I know, Eric, you do too. Or is it almost like, I guess for me, like I would kind of probably want to lean towards bashing it a little bit more. And I think one of the genius parts of this script is that you don't do any of that. It's not even about religion. It's not even about, I don't like to spoil too much on this show, but it's not even about the baby. You know what I'm saying? Like it is, but it isn't. And I just wondered, did you find that more freeing or constricting when you guys were performing this?
Well, to speak to your question about whether in college I had to restrict myself, luckily no. My college I went to Fordham University, and it was very liberal in the sense of kind of anything goes. So that was very good. I was very, very fortunate in that regard. And then I think, for me, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself religious now. I don't go to church. I don't, that's not a part of my life now. Was it a challenge to sort of tackle this subject matter, with that kind of playing in the back of my mind? I would say no, because to me, this was never a script that was specifically like anti or pro religion. Like you said, it to me, this movie doesn't really make, I don't know, it doesn't make an explicit statement either way. I think it simply imbues the characters with given circumstances, and then lets this crazy story play out. And I think that Father David's religious beliefs, they certainly color his his worldview, and they are certainly the reason why why he has these extremes of where he begins and where he ends. But I don't know that I don't know that Father David is I don't know that his faith necessarily falters that much in this. I think that he has his faith, but I think that he struggles with being a human being, and with what he feels inside, and what he wants, and then what like the Bible and his personal history tells him to do. Um, and I don't know that that's necessarily like a good or a bad statement on religion itself. So no, I never had like an issue, during this thinking like, oh gosh, what's the religious group gonna think? Because I don't think that I don't think we're bashing anything. I think that, and I mean, Eric obviously can speak more to this, but I don't think the film's even really interested in that. I think the film is interested in telling this wild story, and having these characters, that is specifically David, who's struggling because of his faith. But it's the struggle that we're concerned with, and not the faith itself.
I think he's struggling because of that goddamn fucking mural he has in his living room.
Well, there's Mama. Yeah, there's Mama.
It's
too.
just hung a little too low.
I could not stop staring. I like, even as the dialogue's going on, I'm like, she's staring into my soul. I can't. This is she needs to go. And actually, I would have went full Terry and been like, look, we're just gonna turn this right around here. Now we can talk and have a good time. But Eric, I'm sorry, just any restrict, like, because I guess like what I was trying to say is I found myself when I was writing at that school to kind of make it a point to offend, or the flip side of that, to just kind of, I don't know, almost dumb it down to the lowest common denominator at times, when writing pieces. And I just didn't know, or I'm interested if that's something that you wrestled with at all, or you were just like, look, the movie's not about, it was never about religion, even though I tell you what, you definitely hit a, I don't talk about timing with the whole abortion issue and the baby. I tell you what, like I don't know if you could have timed it any better. I say.
Yeah, I mean that whole unfortunate circumstance is just something that's been circulating the movie kind of the whole time. But I do think also, you make any movie about war, violence, religion, any of these topics that I feel are purely American topics, it's like they're always going to be hitting time, at the right or the wrong times, depending on what you think. But yeah, no, I mean, this one was particularly unfortunate. But I think by the time I sort of like caught wind of some of the beats in this film that maybe would rub certain people the wrong way, I think I had already gone down the path so far of just having a setup that I really felt good about, a group of actors that I knew would be incredible at these roles. And there was enough that I kind of had already together that I was just really excited about, to where it didn't give me, I really didn't pause when I thought about like, a certain reveal that's going to spin the movie in a whole other direction, after the Never Have I Ever. Like when those things came about, like I kind of thought about them and I was like, yeah, but it's too good not to do. I mean, really, when so much of this was just like, kind of the beats were naturally clicking, and I saw the chemistry between the characters working very well, and the idea of Jeremy and Graham going head to head. I mean, it was like all of those things kind of all at once that just really inspired me to just kind of keep the pedal to the metal. Also with just having a movie that moves fast, that cuts, that's 82 minutes, that really gets going right out of the gate and never lets up, both with the suspense and the comedy. That's something that I just kind of picked up on from my first experience with film festivals. With my first movie, it was seeing films that were just firing kind of on all cylinders in terms of the laughs and the scares and the pace and everything. And I was I remember just experiencing that audience reaction, being like, I want to make a movie like that, whether people see it by themselves or in a theater. I want something that's just engaging from beat to beat. So I think, while I'm writing this thing, it's also about like, what's the next thing that makes sense, that kind of spins it on its head. And, when you have a setup that's kind of as classic as, a guy who's a little too nice and someone who's going to take advantage of him, it's something that, we've all been through these situations before. So I think it's a familiar enough story and a familiar enough setup to where, people project their own experiences with people that have maybe overstayed the welcome at the house. I think it's also, the character of a Catholic priest. I mean, there's not a lot you need to do or say about that. It's a purely American issue. Spans a broad number of topics. People are going to bring their own biases with religion and priests to the table. So, I think when you're dealing with kind of like what can be sensitive subjects, you just try to present it in the most straightforward, entertaining, non-biased way, knowing that people are going to bring all sorts of baggage and thoughts about this movie. And I mean, I'm glad to hear that people don't feel as though it's particularly bashing anything or endorsing anything else. And I think that's a testament to just how fun and enjoyable it is to watch this guy lose his mind, but also to, feel for him at the same time, because he's up against, equally as crazy characters.
Well, and another thing that I think is really cool about the film too is, and just from hearing you talk, I would assume that this wasn't your intention, but I like the idea of kind of challenging the theology of it all, meaning this is what David should do. David should take this man into his, you know what I'm saying? David is doing the right things. And I would love to sit down with, shit, I don't know if I have any religious friends anymore, but if I did, I would love to sit down with them and just kind of, I don't know, see their reaction to it all, because I do think what starts out as a very, I would argue to some extent, like even the most religious, I think that they would have left that guy there. You know what I'm saying? Which is what I'm attracted to the film, is because like I remember, well, first when I first saw you, Graham, I was just like, oh, priest, I hate it. I hate it already. I hate religion. I hate, whatever. And then obviously Jeremy enters the scene. I'm like, but I kind of love the idea that you, again, without spoiling too much, who's the leech at the end. And I think that ties back to the whole theology of it all. Just who is the leech at the end of this movie? And I love playing, and I don't know that I have an answer to that, but I love films that kind of play with that dynamic. And I just, across the board, I just had so much fun with this film. So let's back it up a little bit. I got to know some of your favorite scenes to shoot. I know that I was listening to the commentary there, the Never Have I Ever. That was a lot of ad-libbing going on. I would assume that had to have been pretty fun, yeah?
Oh yeah, I mean that was a fun scene. And there was also a challenging scene because there's a lot of business going on. There's a lot of, okay, you drink here and you're pouring here and you're doing all this stuff. I know Jeremy especially had to do a lot of that hand business. I really liked shooting that scene. One, because it's a fun scene, but two, it's that moment when Father David really begins to like, shed his kind of priestly garb, as it were. And it was fun to play with that. As horrible as it was to shoot, I enjoyed shooting the stuff outside, out by the fire. I mean, that was cold as hell. That was, I mean, Eric, what was it? It was like 20 something degrees.
Yeah,
Outside,
it was a cold time of year. I mean, I told everyone, I said, well, we're standing by a fire, so it can't be that bad.
Where did you guys
we were
shoot?
very close to the fire.
Yeah.
Where did you guys shoot?
So we shot this in northeastern Indiana, is where the film was made, and it was January of 2021, and it was pretty much a dry winter while we were shooting all the interiors. But then that third week came around, and what we thought was going to be a dry Christmas movie, suddenly we got dumped on by a polar vortex, and it was just in time to do all of the exteriors. So pretty much every interior of the scene, there's likely not snow on the ground yet.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I guess, so Graham, you say the cold. Eric, as a writer director, what were some of the tougher moments for you to capture?
I mean, from a technical side, coordinating just the timing of the final shot with, Taylor walking out and the flash going off. I mean, there's a great behind the scenes featurette on the disc that kind of shows the chaos of that moment. There's the technical things like that. I mean, anytime we were outside, of course, because it's freezing cold, you're dealing with fire, you're dealing with blood, you're dragging a character, across here and doing that without spoiling too much. But Never Have I Ever. I mean, that was it. I probably maybe enjoyed that one the least, only because it's like the one part of the movie that was very much sort of blocked out meticulously the most. We really took one whole night to do that scene and kind of broke it into 3 pieces. But all the credit to our cinematographer, who really knew how to kind of switch up the 3 pieces and kind of keep it progressing forward.
good.
I think the thing that maybe I was worried about a little bit and felt good about afterwards, when people started to say they really liked that scene, is that you never want to stop a movie to explain who is who and who's done what. Exposition is like the enemy of a good narrative film. It's very kind of difficult to pull off. So the fact that it's happening during a game, there's very much like a coyness to it. People are saying things or not saying certain things, but they don't have to say, yes, I did this when I was so and so, whatever date, because I took a shot. So the audience knows they did. So very much like one of my favorite scenes in the original Terminator is when they're speeding down the road and the T-1000 is on the back, and it's basically he's explaining what happened. Like, he's giving the exposition of Terminator, but it's happening during an incredible car chase. And that's like one of the great ways to sort of unfold exposition, because it has forward momentum. And while we didn't have any crazy car chases, I felt like the forward momentum of a game at least kept the audience engaged. It was giving you progress through a scene, but you were learning enough about what you needed to know about these characters before the film started. So I was a little worried about that. I mean, honestly, I was just hoping that it would land and it wouldn't feel like we were just pausing the movie to learn a bunch of stuff about other people. So yeah, any of the technical stuff, it was certainly difficult.
When I was watching the making of, I almost bit a hole in my lip, because I just, you put yourself, whatever you're seeing on the screen. Well, if you're somebody like me, you put yourself in the person's shoes. And when the flashes weren't going off when you were calling for them, I just tell you, the director, I'd have been losing my fucking shit, dude. Like, I'd been like, look, this is, we're not doing anything big here. All I need, whether it's a flashlight or whatever, like, you just need to do it. Like, this should be easy. Yeah, I was biting a hole in my lip watching you do that, especially since right beforehand you ran from the house down the street and then back to the camera, which was across the street from the house. And I was just like, hold on, they're not flashing at the right times. You're fired.
As the sun is coming up on the last day that we have Taylor. Yeah, I mean, that's all of that being captured on glorious mini DV tape by one of our crew members. Kind of just makes it look like this demented Christmas home movie from like 1995. It makes the craziness of what we did just look way more like insane.
Dude, I thought the ending, which is good, because I don't like keeping guys any longer than I say I'm going to. Yeah, I get really nervous about that. But that ending, sir, perfect. In fact, there's so much, well, I don't want to say so much, but there's a lot of misdirection in this film that I'm sitting there like, so I'm not going to reveal too much to the audience, but the Cox and Robbers. So I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, it's all a farce. Oh, it's not. Okay. All right. It's not a farce at all. God damn it. And then the final sequence that you have shot after the flashes go off, that is not what I thought was going to happen. That's not, and it takes it. I'm not. I'll toot my own horn a little bit. It's sometimes you got to try real hard to pull the veil over my eyes. And in that closing sequence before the credits roll, I was like, God damn, that's the way that it needed to end. That's not at all the way that I saw it going. And may I ask the language spoken at the end there? The language spoken at the end from the belly, we'll say. What language? What are you pulling from?
Well, it is Latin, and I actually worked with a Latin professor in my hometown who has a PhD. I had originally approached him looking for someone that could speak Aramaic, which is very similar to Latin, and he had claimed that he has spoken Aramaic before, but it would take more time for him to do the translation of those 7 words or so. So we took Latin, but clearly, without spoiling anything, it's a common language spoken within certain frameworks and certain religious types of horror movies. So yeah, it was fun to work that out with someone and then record it and sort of double down the track to give it that tone and then put it where it is.
Love the addition to it, dude, because I think again, with like the misdirection, now you start to wonder, is this super I hate spoilers. I fucking hate it. Just so you guys know, if a trailer to a movie starts to play in the theater that I'm at for whatever I'm going, I'll get up and walk out of the theater. I don't watch trailers of any sort. So like this this whole idea of, well, I don't want to spoil it. There's always one last question I like to ask my guests before they leave. I have to know, well, my audience has to know, some of the films that made you twos want to do what you do, if you don't mind.
Oh boy, Graham,
Oh,
you take
I
it
hate
first.
it.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean, that's a big
softball.
question.
And no, it sucks, dude. It sucks. But you guys, look, the next time if you guys come on the show again, we will not do this. But I always get a lot, especially we have a lot of first time filmmakers that listen to the show, and I don't know why, and they gravitate towards the technical aspect of things, but they're always like, oh shit, like I've never seen those films before. I need to go watch that. Hey, I watched this, and this made me do this. So it, for whatever reason, it hits, fellas. It hits.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely for me, The Exorcist was a major movie that made me fall in love with the craft of horror films. That was a huge one. I saw that when I was like 10 or 11. Again, similar time frame. I saw Army of Darkness. It was one of the first, I guess, quote unquote, like adult movies that I saw in a theater. That movie changed my life and showed me how fun movies can be. And then I would say too, the movie that really made me kind of like my first like jaw drop moment of like, wow, movies can do this, is the original Clash of the Titans. Um, that movie I bought blind on VHS. I'd saved up, it was like $60 or something for the VHS of that. And I went to a Suncoast Video in the mall, and I didn't know what I was going to buy. And I was, looking through all the different titles, and I saw something called Clash of the Titans, and it had all this amazing like stuff, artwork on the front, and it just looked cool. It was about gods and stuff. And that movie remains one of my favorites to this day. And it was one of the first movies that really made me go like, wow, movies can totally transport you. So I would say those.
Perfect. Eric.
Well, I mean, really, the first time I ever knew what a director was or who a director of photography was, it was, I still have a copy of it. It's The Making of Jurassic Park on VHS. And, that's the first time I ever saw titles like director, DP, production designer, whoever. So, from really like a behind the curtain thing, that opened my eyes up to everything. And, I don't think that I was really thinking about making movies right then and there. I actually was almost more impressed with the people that were sketching the dinosaurs. I had a grandmother who was a really great artist she could draw about anything. And I just remember really wanting to be an artist for as long as I can remember, more so than a filmmaker. But, the film from a practical side of making them really clicked with me and seeing how it could be done when I became an intern at Glass Eye Pix, which is Larry Fessenden's long-standing production company in New York. And he was, at the time making really, they had done a lot of his films. Ty West had made films there. At the time, it was like Stakeland, Bitter Feast. I think The Innkeepers were about to come out. And these were all movies that I was kind of working on in the background a little bit in the office. So, it's really like in my early 20s that I kind of got a sense of what was possible, what was both, artfully interesting, but also financially viable. And I think, it's around that same time, late teens, early 20s, where, you grow up loving John Carpenter, but you maybe only see a couple of his movies. You love Halloween, but then you start to go down the back catalog and it's like, well, what's Prince of Darkness all about? And then you see that and it's like, why is no one talking about this movie? You start to kind of dive into some of the lesser known titles of these, longstanding directors that you've been a fan of, sort of the A sides. So that kind of really gets exciting. And certainly the internet, having the ability to find anything and everything and really do deep dives on directors who you admire, their careers. That's kind of the great thing about it. But, when I was a kid, it was, a lot of TV too. Is like, Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like I think about a lot of like gateway horror for kids. And, whether I was thinking about making that stuff then or not, I was clearly devouring it. And, my first job was working at a haunted house. I wasn't thinking about making horror movies when I worked at a haunted house, but it was like the coolest job ever. Like I, got to scare people and I got paid in like free pizza at the end of the night. And just kind of like seeing, again, it was very much a behind the curtain sort of thing with the way like a haunted house is run. And the way I look back on that and think it was all kind of maybe building towards this interest in fabricating a world of some sort. I think that's so much of what horror movies are. It's like you get to put everything on display. Every aspect that goes into possibly making a movie is, the best ones are supercharged and they're firing on all cylinders. And, I think when you're just kind of like, a crazy little weird kid that just likes all this different stuff, it's like, an eclectic taste, I think often leads people to gravitate towards this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up on Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I did not have a normal childhood. In fact, my Saturdays were also spent, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then you wait a couple hours, Tales from the Crypt on Fox at like 11 or something right after that. One thing I do want to say, just because it's one of my favorite vampire films of all time, Stakeland. For my audience, just if you haven't seen Stakeland yet, please see Stakeland and Stakeland 2. I don't know which one's better, but I had a good time. You want to talk about dusting off old John Carpenter's? I rewatched Ghost of Mars not too long ago. You know what? Ghost of Mars rules.
It's fun. It's fun as hell. I have a blast with it. It's so fun. It's so fun.
Everything about it, I was like, you know what? I mean, I'm not shocked that it tanked, but like it's just a goddamn fun film. Like I brought my buddy over and he's like, dude, why haven't I ever seen this? I was like, I don't know. I remember going to see that in the theater for the 2 days that it was there. And I remember back then I was like, minus all the whatever the villains are doing, that whole thing, but minus that, I'm all in on this fucking film. This rules. And in fact, let's do Ghost of Mars again. Let's bring that back and put Ice Cube in there. I don't care. I'm just babbling at this point. I'm just babbling. I'm gonna get you guys out of here, but before I do, I just wanted to tell you, no bullshit, Eric Graham, and you can tell Jeremy Taylor. It's one of my favorite films of the year. It's original. It's expertly executed, from the cinematography to even the addition of the church. I think adds a scale to it that you wouldn't have had maybe if we didn't shoot a little bit more in the church, or if it was just up just the pew. I thought it added scale. I thought the three of you, and including Rigo, who, I mean, I think my favorite fucking line and it's stupid. I understand that what I'm about to say is stupid. I honestly think my favorite fucking line of the film is, oh man, whoa man, he's dead as fuck. Well, we'll just go ahead and bury him in the back. Again, I love everything about this film. I think it's dark, and for me, it's a new Christmas classic that I will just like, I to shock my friends every now and then, but also just for me, fellas. Like, I thought, Graham, I mean, I Mind's Eye, Beyond the Gate. Like, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. I think this may be maybe my favorite role that I've seen you in, just because of the arc that we were talking about. Eric, I think this is one of your more refined works thus far. I can't say enough about this film. I love The Leech. December 5th, Arrow Video, streaming on the Arrow player. Gentlemen, I had a great time. I hope you guys will come back again. I'm here for whatever you do next, and I promise you that. All right, fellas?
Thank you so much.
It's very kind of you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Talk soon, fellas. Talk soon. All righty?
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. So on the bonus features, it literally is packed to the gills. I'm not kidding you. We have a director and producer commentary. We have a Chattanooga live commentary with the cast and director. We have another Q&A or a virtual, I'm sorry, Chattanooga live commentary with the cast and director, Eric. And we have a Q&A afterwards. Again, like they cover so much in these bonus features that like I almost was ashamed to come on and do the fucking show, because once you watch the bonus features, you'd be like, yo, I didn't need to listen to your fucking podcast. All right. It's got Parasites in the Oven, which again I said is a new visual essay exploring the Leech and Eric Pennycoff's earlier films by critic Anton Patel. Like I said, if you're only, I think you should watch all the bonus features, but if you're only going to watch one, that's the one to watch. The breakdown of the cast, crew, and the pieces that Eric's done, it makes me want to quit. Makes me want to quit doing this shit. So, what else? We have a Fright Fest introduction and Q&A. I think the Fright Fest prayer was fucking awesome. We have the making of the Leech. We have the cringeworthy Rigo's music video. You know what you'll know what I mean when you put that on. Holy fucking shit, that was cringeworthy. And then Arrow was nice enough to include Eric's short films, which was unfortunate, The Pod and Phase 2, and then his feature, if you'd like to seek that out, Sadistic Intentions. Like I said, this movie, for me, is something that I'll dust off every Christmas, maybe even during the summer sometimes. But I can't say enough about this film. I mean, as you, the audience, knows, like I've kind of... I'm only going to do this if I feel there's stuff worth talking about. And once I had heard about this, read about it, I was just like, it's go time. We need to reach out to them and see what's what. And I couldn't have been happier with the film. And I kid you not, I wish these guys the best of luck. I think Eric has a vision that is so unique to him, that he's separating himself from a lot of other filmmakers, and that's not, you know me, I mean, I'll be nice to guests when they're on the show, but when they're off the show, like, you're a fucking filmmaker, and I just kind of dismiss you. But not Eric. I think Eric, just the way that he writes, or the way that he chooses to execute his pieces, it's stuff that I want to see. So make sure you check out The Leech. Again, it is December 5th. You can get it on Blu-ray and or stream it on the Arrow Player. The Arrow Player. Ella Cinema. God damn, they were fun, weren't they? Eric Pennycoff, Graham Skipper, Jeremy Gardner, Taylor Zaudtke, Rigo Garay, The Leech, December 5th. So fucking good. So fucking good. Make sure you guys check that out. All right. And I'm gone.